I originally said this was going to be for 10,000 subscribers, but then I didn't care to wait around it as it makes no sense really, so this is just now going to be a normal Q&A video. You asked the questions, I'm going to answer them, and they were good questions. I did try and use as many questions as possible, but I think I've taken too many already, and I did have to leave some out. And I tried to put them in some sort of order so they all kind of fit into the same categories. And we're going to start with the most important question, the only one that really matters. Do you really have a beard? And I can gladly say yes, I do have a beard. I am not a fraud. And that brings us on to the next logical question. What does your name mean? Now my name means something and nothing at the same time. To really explain where my name comes from, we have to go back to the year 2009. Now me and a friend were sat in computer class, not doing work, and instead we were looking at stuff like new games coming out, right? And this is a game neither of us actually ever ended up buying, but we were looking at what was at the time the new Medal of Honor game. Now obviously Call of Duty was huge at the time, and Medal of Honor hadn't released anything in a long time, and I'm pretty sure this website you're looking at now is the original one we were looking at the time. And if you hover your mouse over that image, you get those image inspect words, and as you can see it says Mohbox. The Mohbox from my name literally means Medal of Honor box. Now obviously at the time it was a completely arbitrary name, but now that it's 7 years later and I've used that name for gamer tags, PSN things and everything for 7 years, it has become obviously a more definitive thing for me. But yeah, the source is just Medal of Honor box and the guy on the front had a beard. Now let's learn a little more about me. How old are you and how far did you go in your education? So I am 22 years old and I have a bachelor's degree in history, and that's really why a lot of my videos, especially ones coming up, are rather research intensive, because really I'm quite sad. And I guess a question that makes sense to follow up there is, what do you use to get all of your facts for your videos? And now a lot of the stuff statistics wise and things is from Pro Football Reference, which is really good. Loads of media outlets use it or have used it in the past. And for a lot of things it tends to be like when I did that top 5 equipment manager video, tends to be stories I already know, and then I'll double check them pretty much with anything that confirms it on the internet. And when it comes to stuff I didn't know but I read on Wikipedia, I do genuinely use the references on Wikipedia to see for myself the original website that said it, but it's just the simple stuff really. Pro Football Reference, the number one for anything stat based, anything information based, numbers of stuff. Then it's stories out of my head, and then Wikipedia and making sure that's actually true. Then we have what city/town are you from, and I have the honor of having lived most of my life in this wonderful town called Scunthorpe. And I'm sure you detected the sarcastic tone there, as you can see in that lovely picture. You can see the grim steelworks in the background, and then I also have the great distinction of going to school in the nearby town of Grimsby, which has multiple times been voted the single worst town in all of England. And then for university I moved down to just outside of London to go to Royal Holloway University, and this place was actually in the Avengers film. And if you look right here, that's my old bedroom window. If you didn't grow up with football, how did you find your passion for football? The exact passion I can't explain. How I really, knew about it, started getting into it. The one link I do have is that my dad worked in America for a few years, so he was like the first step to it. But he wasn't really that into it, and outside of that, it's really just through TV and stuff. And then I decided I wanted to get into it, made sure I could see as many games as I could, and the rest was history. I was obsessed with it. If you could be in the NFL, what position does your size and skills dictate you should be? And I am 6'3", just round about 200 pounds, which puts me in either quarterback territory or punter territory. And what your skills dictate you should be, I'd be a terrible one of either of those, but I'd probably be a slightly better punter than a quarterback. So I guess I'd be a punter. And what would you want to be the NFL? I'd want to be a coach. What inspired you to make your YouTube channel? Well, I always wanted to make YouTube videos, and when I was younger I wasn't really confident enough to do it, and then my friend Dean started making videos and I got into it with him. And actually when you look, he recently wiped his channel actually, it's a bit of a shame, but when you look at the original video, the first one I was ever in on YouTube, in the description of that, he wrote that what I'll be doing is doing Madden videos, and that was, I think, about 4 years ago or so. So obviously I only started really about 2 years ago on this channel actually doing Madden stuff, and then only 6 months ago doing it properly. But all the way back then I knew I wanted to do Madden stuff, and here I am still doing Madden stuff. So we just answered that first question, and the second one is, what is your most memorable / favorite NFL game or moment? And at first I didn't think I had a good answer to this, but I do. It was the season after the Seahawks had just won the Super Bowl, and in week 1 they were playing the Packers, and the Packers lost in part down to the fact that Rodgers didn't throw Sherman's way once, just completely ignored that side of the field. Then comes week 2, and the Seahawks play the Chargers, and old gunslinger Phillip Rivers couldn't care less which side of the field Sherman was on. He kept targeting Eddie Royal against Sherman, and they ended up winning the game with Gates scoring something like 3 touchdowns. And that was a great game because it was the Seahawks with their historic defense who had just dominated the Packers, and Rivers torched them big time. What NFL games did you go to? And yeah, I mentioned in the other video that I'd been to a couple of NFL games. The first one was the Buccaneers versus the Bears, and then more recently I saw the Lions versus the Falcons. Rank all the teams in order from your favorite to least favorite, and no, I can't do that. That's like the worst idea I could think of. One, also, I don't think I'd be able to do it. If you want a good idea, basically just take last year's draft order and from 1st to 32nd, that way, that's my favorite to least favorite. I like the underdogs more than the best teams because, you know, it's more fun to support the little ones. Now, this one's an easy one. What is the video you are most proud of? And that one's definitely gotta be the video on the Madden curse. For one, it was a lot of fun to do, and two, it took me from just getting over 500 subscribers because I got 80 extra new ones in that 1 week to going up to about 2,500 in the next week and a half. And I still get comments on it now from people still not realizing it's a joke, and the main one is always the funniest one. That Ray Lewis one was like, he wasn't supposed to get interceptions, when I don't think I could have made it more clear I was being sarcastic when I did an evil laugh at the end of the sentence. This is a really good one. Does London or any other international city deserve an NFL franchise? Why or why not? And this is assuming that a current team would have to relocate. And my answer is absolutely no. I think the only person that would say yes to this is someone that doesn't actually care about like the integrity of the sport. It just makes no sense. You can't travel the Atlantic every week just to play an away game. And just think about free agents. Who's going to move continent to play for a different team, and probably a bad team? Really, in all honesty, I think this is the worst thing that could ever happen to the NFL if they establish an international team. Why aren't there more fans of the NFL outside of America, or more specifically, how I'm going to answer it, in Europe? And it is definitely growing. Every single year it gets bigger and bigger. TV coverage in every country gets better every year, and it is slowly growing. Teams here, playing wise, you get more players coming in. It gets a little bit better competition wise, but it's a slow growth, a very, very slow growth, but it is getting bigger. And I think the main reason is just the fact it's an alien sport. It will take a long time for a lot of people to get into it, but I think it's on a constant upward trajectory now. You know, obviously it used to be bigger, it had NFL Europe, but that failed because it wasn't popular enough, but I think it's heading back to that kind of level and will continue past it now. Did you play or watch rugby before you got into the NFL? And yes, I did. I used to play rugby. Obviously in England, rugby is a school sport, so you just do that. Basically, it's mandatory to do it in PE, gym class I guess you would call it. And then playing for school, I then got asked to join a local team, but that's pretty much how far it went. I think I played for that team for a year. Watched it a little bit. EA used to make a rugby game. I played the last one of that. At that point I was the most into rugby, but I never really was that into it. I like the international things. I don't watch it at all really anymore now. It just doesn't appeal to me. Now this is obviously back to football. Have you ever played on an organized team? Were you good? What position? How good were you all? So the first team I ever played for was about 16 years old, and we made it to the divisional round of the playoffs. Then we went out in that game, and the year after that the team kind of collapsed because we didn't have enough players, so I played for the senior team for a short while. But then I played at university, and in our first year I played defensive end, and in our first year we were terrible. We lost every single game, but then in the second year we got significantly better, and we ended up playing in the Challenge Trophy Finals, which basically is like the second tier national finals, but we lost that game. And as for how good was I, well, let's just say when I had to stop playing because of knee injuries after a car crash, the world didn't really miss a great talent. I was never bad, I'll say that much for myself, but I also wasn't, you know, a game changer. But then I went into coaching, and that's what I'm still doing currently at the moment. And I started out as a running back positional coach, and that's why in that quiz I said I'd be a running back, and most recently I've just become the special teams coordinator for that team as well. Who knows, that's my number one plan, you know, that's my life target right now, is to continue following coaching and see how far I can get with it. Would you consider doing a weekly, monthly podcast? Easy answer there is yes. If there is the interest for it, definitely I'd love to do that. I still have a space in like the weekly schedule right now. There's something I could work it in with as well. So yeah, if the interest is there, I would like to do a weekly kind of roundup. It wouldn't be maybe a full-blown podcast or anything, but like a weekly roundup of the stuff that's happened, opinions on things, just talking about random rubbish. You can put in questions like, who do you think's gonna get more receiving yards? I don't know, Ted Ginn Jr. or Al Gore, and I'll answer that kind of stuff. So that's my basic idea for it. If there's support for it, I'll do it. If not, then no worries. Favorite college team? That one is easy. As I mentioned before, my dad worked in America for a few years, and it was through the steel industry, so he was working in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, as well as Mobile. Therefore, I am an Alabama Crimson Tide fan. It's the only actual link I've got to it. So through my dad, no NFL teams or anything, but he was a Crimson Tide fan whilst he was there. The people he worked with definitely were, and so through him, you know, it's a lucky coincidence, if you will, as in he could have gone somewhere with a, like, D3 college. Which Super Bowl was your favorite? That one I've always got an answer for. The 2002 Super Bowl between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Oakland Raiders. 5 interceptions for the Buccaneers, 3 defensive touchdowns, and John Gruden is just one of my favorite coaches of all time, as well as having, you know, Warren Sapp, John Lynch, Derek Brooks, and Rondé Barber. Who is your favorite player? And I don't know really. I don't have an outright answer to it. I guess probably Julio Jones is right up there with anybody else for me. And moving on to a question I do have an answer for. If you could be any player from any era, who would it be? And it would have to be Bo Jackson. That guy was just an absolute physical monster. You know, he was something like 6'1", 230 pounds, and ran the fastest 40 time in NFL history. That's just crazy. You know, he's bigger than modern between the tackle runners like Eddie Lacy. He weighs just about as much as him and is taller and is faster than any running back that's been in the league, well, ever, because he is the fastest. Here's one I really wanted to answer. Should the NFL implement challenging flags? And now this one is a tricky one, but I think yes, if you have the right rules that go along with it, yes. So if it's stuff like someone gets called for PI, you watch the replay and he never touched a guy, then yes, you should be able to challenge those and overturn those, but there are trickier ones like roughing the passer and things like that, where you are basically judging what someone was attempting to do without them saying what they were attempting to do, and sometimes you can't overturn those things, but yeah, certain things, as long as you can see it clear cut, you should be able to challenge those things. And the Bills put it forward as a suggestion for the rule changes this year, and it was turned down, but they'll probably put it up again next year, and let's see what happens. What recording software do you use? For recording PlayStation stuff, I use an Elgato Game Capture, not one of the new ones. Mine's about 3.5 years old or so. It does have occasional problems, but it still works pretty well. And then for capturing stuff on my screen, so my computer screen, I use NVIDIA Shadowplay, which is free to download and use as long as you have an NVIDIA graphics card. And AMD do the exact equivalent if you have an AMD graphics card. So, and that's really good because you can do retroactive capturing, as in if you play a game and then suddenly want to record something that happened 2 minutes ago, you just press a button and it does that. That's what I really like about that. And it just works nice and easy. Favorite Madden game? That one is super easy. That's Madden 12. I just think it's pretty much the best one in every sense. It had the best gameplay for its time, so as in the difference between Madden 12 and Madden 11 was greater than any Madden that came after it, in my opinion, and also just the menus and the music and everything was so good in Madden 12, so much better by a million miles than Madden 13, which really makes it seem twice as good anyway. But that definitely is my favorite game. Madden 12 is the king of Maddens, in my opinion. Who is your favorite team to play with? For the past couple of years, it's been the Oakland Raiders, and I don't know if that's over now because they obviously did bring in a lot of good free agents. I don't know if that takes the fun out of them slightly. I would have to guess if I were to do a career now, it would probably be with like the Titans or the Buccaneers, or someone who has a young squad where you don't have to improve every single position but can still make plenty of changes. That's what the Raiders were the past couple of years. So the last 2 Maddens I used the Raiders. Before that I tended to use the Buccaneers, and I can't tell you yet for this one. And that's it for the Q&A. Would you believe it that absolutely nobody asked anything to do with my face? A face reveal. Nobody really cared about what I look like, so that's obviously why I haven't said it. Gotcha, obviously you all asked. So here it is. Here is a picture of me and some random guy in a Foot Locker. I'm the one that looks like Vince Wilfork. You got me, I'm not the one that looks like Vince Wilfork. That is Vince Wilfork. That's a picture of me when I met him randomly in a Foot Locker on Oxford Street in London. So that is an older picture though. I haven't changed too much, but you never know. I could have an eye patch now, a peg leg, anything.
Are you ready, kids?
Aye, aye, Captain!
One thing I really wanted to say in this video was, if you want to be a part of these Q&As in the future, I suggest you follow me on Twitter. The problem with doing it through the YouTube comments is there's too big a difference in time between when I ask for the questions and when I can do the thing. If we do it on Twitter, I can pretty much do it all in a row and you're not waiting long for the actual video to come out. So do follow me on Twitter if you want to be part of future Q&As. My handle is just @Beardmohbox. The link for that is in the description as well. And if you're not subscribed yet, you know you can always do that too.